It doesn't matter what anybody tells me, So like for that person who's stuck, I'm going to tell you, just focus on getting that next piece done and never give up. I don't think you're only stuck when you've given up.
Hey, Quentin, I know this is right. We're recording this right on the heels of you launching your brand new book. There it is, right there. The Action Takers Real Estate Investing Planner. Quentin, how many is that now? How many books have you written?
That is book number 4. So I actually have the other ones here too. Look at that. Oh.
Looks like you're stepping up the cover game a little bit there, my brother.
Yeah, well, this one, you know what? This game actually, or this book is actually more like you remember the phonics books way back when? It's almost like one of those phonics books because like you can like write in them and that's the idea, right? Like you can put it flat on your desk and then you can use it and abuse it, tear out pages, do whatever you need.
Wow, you're really testing our age demographic here. Hooked on phonics, huh? Man, how old are you now, Quentin?
How old am I? Good question. 37, going on to 38.
Oh, fantastic! Well, you're showing a couple things. You're showing your teacher background, and you're also showing our age demographic of where we're at in this process.
I just said awesome. 37. I really
47.
Meant 47.
See, guys, that's what happened when you're young at heart. You actually subtract 10 years always when you're having these wonderful conversations. So Quentin, we were having. I was on one of your meetup groups. It was probably a couple of weeks ago now, and you were sharing some really key insights and some killer insights for your clients out there in the Durham Real Estate Investors Group. And you were sharing a lot about what's in your action planner, your planner. Before we get into that, I definitely want, because accountability, consistency, all those buzzwords are very, very important that we want to have a conversation about. But, and one of the goals I have with my podcast, and I'm going to get to a question here, so just bear with me a second, is one of the goals I have with my podcast is I like to invite guests on that I'm a fan of people who I know, people I'm a fan of their work. Some things I've seen, they've just done an amazing thing over a course of time. I think our wisdom and experience count for something in today's day and age, right? And so one of the things I always like to do is bring somebody on that has some experience, has some wisdom, also has the track record over time, and to just share some of the story, okay? So I know a lot about you. I've seen a lot of the buildings you bought, the properties you transacted, just who you are, how you show up, how you are as a leader, how you interact, and how you help support people. I just know who you are. I want to know where that all came from. Like, where did that upbringing come from? Did it come from family? Did it come from, where you grew up? Like, give us a little bit of the story of the background, if you will.
Whoa, this might be a little hard too. So we came to Canada. I was 3 years old, and we came as immigrants. We actually didn't stay with family. We stayed with like a family that we didn't know. And we actually lived so you go into the basement and there was it's like a crawl space basement with a bed. And that's where we started. We really started with nothing as a family. And then we moved into a cooperative apartment down at Bathurst and Finch, which is like in Toronto. My parents work hard. My mom was a teacher. My father was, at that time, they were called computer operators. Now that's everybody. But, that was him at the time. And we kind of, we moved our way up, from different, like from a co-op apartment to a townhouse to like a semi-detached house. That was a family. It was definitely some challenges growing up too, right? I worked as a paper delivery person since I had 3 paper routes in grade 3, right? I used to sell chocolates. I used to do like tons of different things. I worked as a dishwasher at age 12 in grade 8. Worked different jobs. Always was a hard worker. And then I worked at the Prince Hotel, which was another interesting job. I don't know if this is at York. They would have stars that come in. So and I did room service. So you'd have like Alex Van Halen would come in, and I would be there the day after cleaning up the dishes, asking for autographs. You'd be like all these girls in the room, and the day after I was like, "Wow, this is awesome." Anyway, so stuff like that. I had some fun, and definitely. I worked hard. Family life was a challenge. My dad wasn't a very good role model. There was a lot of challenges there, and we eventually stopped talking to each other. Both my parents are passed away now, but the family life was definitely a bit of a challenge. But I was always creative, I think, in how I did things, and kept my brother and sister together with me, and I made sure that my mom was okay, and that sort of thing. So it was there's definitely some challenges growing up, but I always good at working hard, doing different things.
Yeah.
I even did telemarketing. I sold duct cleaning before they outsourced it.
Well, Quentin, I think it might be easier to tell what you haven't done than what you have done.
I used to deal blackjack too. It was awesome, man. I was a blackjack dealer for a few years in Toronto. Like when they opened up the casino at the CNE, I got trained. I was really I was 16, so I wasn't allowed to drink, but I could deal blackjack, and then I would do charity casinos and stuff like that. It was fun.
Holy moly, you have done it all. Like truly, it's funny. It's funny how now you sit there and people of our and I'm not trying to make this a commentary about us, our age back in the day. I don't want to sound like an old grumpy old man here. But it's interesting on how many people of our age, how many jobs that we've had along the way. Like I literally started working before I was 13. I think I was 13 in multiple different jobs along the way. And, people I don't think have that experience right now. Like some people might do some odd jobs or maybe some virtual jobs or some side hustles or stuff. But I think the kids today don't have that work experience. I'm not talking work ethic because I think everybody has it in them. But maybe they just don't have that experience of working for a bee farmer or working for the blackjack place, working for somebody else along the way. I don't think we have that anymore as much.
Yeah, you know what? One thing that did change the way that I thought about wanting to work was I was a tree planter. So I used to plant trees during the summer. I did it for four summers in university, and that drove me away from physical labor for the rest of my life. Of planting 1,000 trees a day and just knocking them out with my pack, and it was. And then in northern BC, in the middle of nowhere, they drop you off by helicopter, and then you're there for 2-3 weeks at a time. You can't go anywhere, right?
Okay, Quentin, what years was that? And do you remember the company that you worked for? Because I tree planted in northern BC as well. So
no, I would have to go back. It's such a long time ago, 27 years ago or whatever.
It would be interesting, and I still remember some of the places that we were at. We planted. It would be interesting to go back and see some of those trees now. And it's funny, I was having a conversation with somebody and I kind of shared that with them, and the person goes, geez, those trees would be big now. And I go, what are you saying? I go, yeah, I guess that was 20, 30 years ago. Right. So
that'd be crazy.
They would be full-size trees they'd be big trees.
You'd be through a forest and you would be like, wow, I can't believe that I planted this, right? I could totally see that. I remember being in really Fort Nelson, smaller towns. Oh, where I think our criteria is if there was what is that burger place? If there was this one burger type of place in that town, it was considered a big town. Like if it was like if there was one A&W, you're like,
Yeah.
wow, this is a big town. It has an A&W. Like,
Well, that might have been
amazing.
a white spot. It might have been white spot. If they had a white spot, it was the big town, right? It shapes you. It hardens you when you're sleeping in a tent on a frozen piece of ground, and you're getting up and you're working from sun up to sundown, and you're climbing mountains all day long. It's one of the best workout weight loss programs you'll ever do, ever.
Yeah, absolutely. I came back from that one summer, and my wife was like, "Wow, you look awesome." I'm like, well, I don't know. I was just working the whole time. I didn't really work out or anything. Like,
So you had mentioned, you might unpack a couple things from your story, Quentin, because I'm sure a lot of people would like to know about this. You mentioned you were an immigrant. Where did you immigrate from?
So I was born in Fiji.
Okay.
My parents came over from India, and they stopped off in Fiji. I was born there. I'm actually trying to get my citizenship, if you can believe it, trying to get my, my citizenship because I was born there. It's a little bit of a challenge, but I'm working on that. And then we came over.
Yeah. So was there some political unrest? Like what made them want to leave Fiji? Because quite honestly, the climate is quite spectacular, is it not?
Yeah, the climate is spectacular, but there's a lot of coups that happen there's a lot of cultural, I think, challenges because you have the native population and then you have the Indian population that's kind of come in, and there's always the challenges that come because the military is controlled by the native population and the government was controlled by the Indian population, and there's just so much back and forth. I think there's been 4 or 5 different military coups that have happened in that nation. So it's very unstable, and it's quite like there's a lot of poverty. Like I don't know if you've used Kiva before, but I use Kiva to do microloans it's a great way to do microloans across the world to nations that need help. Like you would look at the Philippines and you could give microloans to individual business owners, and they basically pay you back over 24 months for these loans. And you're not making any money on them. It's for a way for you to give back to specifically different countries, different people. And I actually focus on giving to Fiji because there are lots of poverty there. So, being able to do that is great, but I mean, that's one of the challenges. You see the hot sun and the beautiful surroundings and the great hotels and that sort of thing. But really, there is a lot of challenges there for sure. So
yeah. So how old were you? Did I miss that, or did you say that? How old were you when you came over?
3. I was 3.
Okay, so it really hadn't shaped you at that time, but it definitely had shaped your parents, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Did you ever have a great conversation? And I know you had some strange, challenging times with your dad a little bit, but is mom still alive?
No, they've both passed away.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Did you ever ask them about or dig into a little bit of the past of what it was like over there?
Yeah, I mean, it was very rural. Like I had pictures of like the dirt roads and that sort of thing. It was not modern. And they, the reason why they came to Canada was for more opportunities, better opportunities, be able to use they both had university education and, had really wanted to be able to utilize that. And they couldn't really do that in Fiji. So it was the opportunities that Canada had. And they both had to reskill when they got here, right? Their university. I think my mom had a master's and she had to get an additional degree when she was here because it wasn't accepted, so she had to work on that, while raising us too.
It's interesting to note is anytime, and I've had multiple interviews with people that immigrated here into Canada, and this is a general statement again, guys. So just as an FYI, I think a lot of people that have immigrated to Canada have a lot more sense of gratitude, when they do come here because they fled someplace that was quite oppressive and quite dire and whatever. And then when they come to Canada, they go, oh my goodness, I can't believe how amazing it is here. And then sometimes us Canadians are born and raised here going, oh, we got lots of problems and everybody's complaining about this and complaining about that. And then the immigrant mentality of people that they're just grateful and they just get to work, right? Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, I agree. I think, sometimes people take it for granted, and I think one of the things that I really love to do is, appreciate the fact that where we are as a nation and what we have and, just the opportunities that are available to everybody. Like everybody, there's no caste system. There's nothing like you were born here, so you can only go this far, right? The only limitation that you have in Canada is up here, right? It's in your head. And if you can't get through that, then that's the issue. But you don't have those same sort of barriers. You can, if you work hard and you're willing to dedicate, yourself to doing something, you can do it here, which is not the same as a lot of places around the world. And, one of the things that I have to say that I appreciate more is whenever I have like an applicant for one of my rental units that is part of the reserves or is a soldier in our armed forces, I am happy to rent to them. I'm happy because I really think that as a nation we should really support those people to help, because imagine like somebody willing to give their lives for the freedom of your country. Like, that's just an amazing thing to have. And, I think we should always be supporting the people in our armed forces in different ways. And just giving us, like, helping to protect the freedoms that we have here, because it's not like that in other places. It really isn't. So.
Yeah, I think at times us Canadians take it for granted how good we do have it here in Canada. And I got my red shirt on and I'm going to put my hand over my heart and say, bless Canada, right? We live in an amazing place, full of opportunities, full of, don't get me wrong. There's some challenges. There's always challenging times, but you know what? It really comes down to what you want to make of it and really what you want to do with it. It comes down to not the cards, pardon the blackjack analogy, not the cards you're dealt. It's how you play the hand. That's more important than anything.
Absolutely. Awesome. You'll notice that even like in all my designs and stuff like that, I've got like a maple leaf. Even on my books, I always have a maple leaf. Like you'll notice it everywhere whenever I do something like that, because I'm a proud Canadian. That now that I am a Canadian, I am a proud Canadian.
When did you get your citizenship?
That's a good 78.
Right.
1978. I got my citizenship. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're Canadian. You've been here a long, long time, right? You'd put it this way: we need more Canadians like Quentin around. Right?
Well, I'm sure that they want to come in, so I'm sure that they're waiting at the door. We just, nice. With all this COVID stuff, nobody's going anywhere.
I agree. Before we dive into your book a little bit more and the acts from theirs, you were a teacher. Was that correct? So, yes. So when did that bug hit you of when you wanted to get into the teaching thing, and when did you want to get out of it? I guess would be the better, because you're a real estate investor full time now, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I am since 2014. I've been a real estate investor full time. I actually my mom was a teacher. Her mom was a teacher. My dad was a teacher for a while too. So my sister is a teacher. Her husband is a teacher. My wife is a teacher. There's a lot of teachers. So, I mean, it was not it was something that was going to happen. I think just like, you're going to university. This is what, you're going to decide to do whatever you want, but you're going to go to university. But, when I was working and doing all those different things, I would always write down business ideas, right? And, just different things that I would do. And while I was teaching, I was often doing other things. So I was never just teaching. So I would, I've been taking my master's. I took my master's of education, took my principal qualifications. So I've got all of that. I would work as a consultant for textbook companies. I would do I actually taught myself how to do web design. And I used to have a website called Free Stuff for Canadian Teachers. And I think I had something like 30,000 teachers on my mailing list. But you know what I figured out after like 5 years of doing that is that giving away free stuff doesn't really make you any money at all. Like it just doesn't. So, anyways, I sold that business and, I moved on and I continued to, look at different ways to make money on top of what I was doing as a teacher, right? Because it was quite a busy job. So I would do work with some stocks. I tried working on like some smaller website businesses, different things like that. And, it kind of, it worked out like, okay, but it didn't really, get me far. And then like in 2004, I bought a property and I was like, oh, well, this is kind of neat. And then I didn't do anything with that. Right. And then in 2008, it had gone up like a ridiculous amount of money. And I was like, oh, well, I guess this real estate thing is pretty good. And then, so then in 2008, I got some more education. So I joined RAIN at that time and got some education. I went to like a weekend seminar, right? And started to learn about some of the pieces, the bigger pieces, and kind of putting that together. And I started to buy 3-4 properties a year and started to take on partners as I went along. And then by I would say by about 2012. So I would say within 4 years of doing that, I could have left my job. I was at the point where the cash flow from my rental properties, was enough for me to decide to do that. But I was scared, right? I was scared to take the jump. And so I could, but I didn't. All I did was I kept putting away the amount of money that I needed at the end of the month. And I did that for like a year and a half, I would say, of like, okay, I'm just testing out what would happen if I left my position. Because I also had 2 young kids, right, at the time. I had my oldest would have been 10 and my youngest would have been 7 at the time, right? So it was a fair bit of a challenge. And so, by the time 2014 rolled around, I was like, this just doesn't make any sense anymore. I can do this for sure. Wow. So, talked to my wife and, she said, all right, go for it, dude. Yeah. I was like, yeah.
So you got the green light at that time. So Quentin, holy moly, you said an awful lot there. And I'm going to unpack a couple things. You were making side hustles cool way before everybody else was talking about it. Really, you taught yourself web design. You did a few other things, stock trading. It's like you're like the OG of the side hustle almost here, right?
I did do a lot.
Yeah, before it was actually in vogue and cool. And it's like being an entrepreneur now is like saying that you're a rapper, almost like it's the cool thing to say is I'm an entrepreneur. But you were doing it way back in the day before it was cool, weren't you?
Yeah, I guess so. I didn't really think of it that way, but yeah, it was really different. Like, and I enjoyed the ability to be able to decide what direction I wanted to go myself rather than, in other ways.
Well, here's the thing, and we could go so many different directions, Quentin, with this conversation, because we honestly could just take 10 different tangents down different rabbit holes. But one of the conversations I have with a lot of people, and a lot of people are feeling, I think that there's what I call there's a crisis of purpose. A lot of people are feeling a crisis of purpose. That maybe they're just in a job or something that they're just not doing. They don't feel that they have a purpose on moving forward. Okay. I want to talk about the transition that you made from teacher into full-time real estate investor? Because there might be some people that are going to be listening and watching this that might be just sitting there going, I'm thinking about the same thing. And, you talked about, you finally got the cash flow up. What was maybe some pragmatic steps that you took along that process to find out when you were ready, when you made the jump, or was it just one of those, the straw that broke the camel's back? I've had enough. It's time to move on. What was the process that you went through? Because I know you're a very detail orientated guy, and you probably had 10 spreadsheets, and you had plans, and you had checklists, and you had everything already built out. So walk us through a little bit of the process you went through when it was the time to make that transition.
Right. So I had built up just different spreadsheets to show me what my cash flow position was now. I had stress tested my portfolio to see what would happen if interest rates go up, if rents went down. So I did a little bit of stress testing in order to kind of see how that would do in the next year or two. I always track my net worth. So I was looking at my net worth, and it was what's the ability for me to be able to refinance properties, to be able to pull out funding. And then I also have I have it in I have it in the book. So let me see if I can pull it out here for you to show you. But like the net worth tracking is like what I would do now. I would consider quarterly, like a quarterly plan. But like there's my balance sheet kind of where you would see my assets. And it's something that I would do like at that time I was doing it twice a year. Now I do it quarterly. The other thing that I did was this here at the bottom, which is income diversity. So I kind of looked at, this is my salary at the top there. And then, I'm trying to do this on the camera. It's not working that well.
It's all backwards.
it's at the top.
Yeah.
And then you could see like the other types of incomes that I have. And then I was like, how is it growing? How could I have different types of income? So, once I quit my job, I was like, okay, so let me try to create an additional stream of income. So what I did is I started to flip houses. So I did. So once I quit my job, I flipped 12 houses in 12 months. And, it was, and this is so messed up, but like I quit my job in June 2014. I flipped a house in less than 30 days. And I made over $100,000 on the flip. And I was just like, what? This is like what I made in a whole year. Like, this is so silly.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
but at the same time, you had to you needed full-time focus on real estate to be able to execute that with flawlessly to the level that you like to do things, right?
That, the other thing too is I had already been doing it. So like from 2008 to 2013 or 2014 even, I had been using a strategy where we bought properties that needed work. We would fix them, right? And then I would refinance them and hold the property. That's the strategy, the only strategy that I really did. At the very beginning, I would buy properties that didn't need too much like work, but by the time 2010 to 2014, that's all I did. That was the strategy. And now I think people refer to the BRRRR strategy, BRRR. I called it buy, fix, refinance, and rent. But it's been around for decades, right? It's not something new. People have been doing it since the 60s.
Well, it's funny. It's funny how that, we've been doing some of these strategies long before there was even catchy names on it. And people, good for the people that popularized it and put a catchy title on it and really marketed it. But like you said, it has been around for a long time. What was the one I saw the other day? Oh, the flip to yourself strategy. Right. I saw that at a workshop and I said, let's hear about this. And I heard about it. I go, I've been teaching that for like 15 years. Right. I guess I should have gave it a catchy little name, put a little TM behind it, and away we go. Right.
Yeah. There's so many different things that have been done for so long. But, I think the key is that, go out and do it, right? Like,
yeah, I guess if you get around long enough, or if you've been around long enough and you have enough longevity in this business, nothing. One of my old mentors says, there are no new ideas. There's just a lot of recycled ones and repackaged ones that are out there, right?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that.
So let's get back, and I don't mean to get you off tangent. So number one is you were very clear on your numbers. That was kind of the transition. So yep. I would say that would be on one level, that's on a numbers level and a pragmatic numbers level, that you were crystal clear and you had that, here's the numbers, black and white, 1 or 0, right? It was simple. Was there any emotional things at the same time that you had to bust through about maybe your identity was a teacher, or you said you had to have the conversation with your wife? Maybe you sit there and go, well, what if somebody asked me, what do I do? I'm no longer a teacher. Was there some emotional things you had to deal with at the same time?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, and it's, I think the challenge too is like teachers are great people, but they're very conservative and they're not big risk takers. So, what I'm doing is kind of out of the box of that kind of scenario. So, that was a challenge. I think also, I was really good as I started Durham REI, I think back in 2008. And so by the time I got to 2012, 2013, there was a peer support network for me, because I didn't actually know anybody personally that had invested in real estate other than the people that I had met along the way. And that gave me a peer support network. So I was able to find other people who had already left their jobs and were working full time as a real estate investor, and just talking to them and associating with them gave me some of that confidence. One of my oldest friends in real estate there. So there's Andrew Brennan, let's say Jeff Woods, Ian Szabo, Mark Loeffler. Right, like all these people that I would say like they're my good friends, right? And there's a few more there. I'm sure I'm gonna miss, but like those guys, like they just help me to they give me confidence, because they've already laid the groundwork for me, and it just made me feel like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Like, come on. Right.
Sometimes through seeing, I think maybe we should coin something. If Mark Loeffler can do something, anybody can do it, right? That's it. And Mark, I hope you're watching and listening, because you're on my list. Every person you just talked to, Quentin's on my list to get on this show of experienced people that have done some amazing things, that have amazing stories to share as well. And I'm on a mission a little bit to share, not the older crowd, but more experienced investors' stories, as opposed to just somebody just getting started. Because I think there's a new generation of real estate investors that can benefit from the wisdom and experience of the Quentin D'Souzas and the Ian Szabos and the Andrew Brennans and the Mark Loefflers and all those people that have gone forward and trailblazed in many respects. I think there's an awful lot of lessons we can learn for the next generation as well.
Yeah. You know what I'm finding is there's a lot more push for like immediate gains, like wholesaling and like flipping properties, and just like, take your money now and run almost. And I don't necessarily agree with that approach to investing I don't even think that's investing in real estate. I think that's creating a job for yourself. And, it's not that I don't think you should do it. I think it's necessary to, like, for me, that was one of the things that gave me confidence once I left my job. But I actually already had the income that I had built from the buy and hold portfolio that was behind me to be able to do that. And I think what people are forgetting is that, like, having cash in the bank, it's not a really good thing to do. It's good for comfort, but it doesn't earn you anything. And real estate is, the power of real estate is the leverage that you have, The fact that you can improve upon it and maybe refinance it after you approve upon it, but also it's the cash flow, the yield that comes from that asset, right? And if you do it right and you have, these little businesses that are spitting out money every month to you, and you've got like 30 of those little businesses, and and then one of those businesses, that goes up in value, which is awesome, but then also the rents go up too, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow. So looking at my portfolio, the property that I bought, let's say in 2010, like a triplex, that one property gives me over $2,000 a month clear cash flow every month. No, like just one property, and I could have flipped that property for $25,000, I'm sure, at the time that, whenever, I had that deal under contract. But the thing is that, if I was only focused on like the dollar bills, then what does he say? Yeah, you're picking up the pennies and you're missing all the dollar bills that are.
Oh yeah, you're walking over the dollars to save the dimes, right?
Yeah, and that's what I feel is happening with all the wholesaling and stuff like that. Instead of doing like the wholesaling piece to it, why not do the lead generation, get the deals that make sense, and then take on a partner, and and you still end up with the same thing. You could even have the partner give you a finder's fee equivalent to a wholesale fee. Like what's the difference? If you need to pay for your marketing, it's understandable if you want to add like a wholesale fee onto it, and then scale yourself faster, right?
Yeah, and then at the same time, you also get the benefit of having your partner experience an incredible gain, which you participate in alongside. So a lot of people are, I 100% agree. So preach it, brother. Keep preaching, right? So, and it's something that I share, and I call it, don't get me wrong, sometimes you got to make the money and you got to make money, and then you also have to build wealth. And I coin it as the MMBW, make money, build wealth, right? So just be clear that, wholesaling and all these other kind of shorter term stuff, that is a make money strategy. It's not a long-term build wealth. And it's a good way maybe of generating some capital to reinvest in a good long-term performing asset from there, right? So yeah. 100% agree. 100% agree, and keep sharing that message, because at the same time, some people will sit there and go, well, why would I ever want to bring on a money partner or a joint venture partner or something like that? It's a good opportunity for you to give back to another person that could not maybe make this wealth themselves. And I read on your Facebook posts a couple times that you just shared some case studies of some investors that you have helped out. I'm sure, Jeff, I know I'm going to put you on the spot with some of the numbers, and it's okay if it's directional, but share some of the numbers of what your partners have done on some of the projects you've invested in.
Yeah, the lowest amount of annual ROI has been like 34% or something like that. And that was on a shorter term project. Some of my partners have got at least 50% ROI annually on their return. And you know what? It's a win-win, like for me and for them. And, for some of the people that I've been working with, like I know they're looking to me like, this is what we're doing. This is our investment strategy, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. That's exactly what my investment strategy is too. So, we're working in the right direction, and we're working together. And yeah. I think that like if you find the right partners, it can be a huge difference to your business. There are the wrong partners. So like there are the wrong partners out there, and you want to have some sort of like a checklist or interview system or a filtration system that allows you to knock out the partners that, don't make sense and find the partners that do. And your criteria changes over time, right? Yeah. Like I used to, like when I'm working on apartment buildings now and I'm putting together funds for it, somebody might tell me like they're getting their funds from a line of credit. And then, so all of a sudden I say line of credit, I go, no, I'm not working with you. Like, it's just not something that I'm willing to do anymore, because that means to me that you don't have the funds to be able to put it in towards a deal. And then that could be problematic, because in the future you may need those funds in order to pay for your line of credit or whatever it is. Unless I can listen and hear some other kind of pieces that kind of support you having this line of credit for some other thing, it's not something that I'm going to do. So if you say you have, $400,000, but you're pulling it from a line of credit, it may not, I may not be interested in partnering with you. And the difference you see here is that I have an abundant mentality. I feel like I can find other people who could bring $500,000 to a deal, or whatever that is. And I think that there are the people out there that you really can work with and want to work with, or you could just do it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like this, I'm working on a 16 unit building right now, and my choice is, I've refinanced a bunch of things. I've got some money sitting in the bank. I could just do it myself now, or I can help the partners that I have that are out there, and work with them to do the deal.
Yeah,
right?
help the people that have helped you along this journey at the same time. Now, we truly, Quentin, and maybe we should book a separate conversation for this. We truly could talk about raising capital probably for a better part of a month, and still only have scratched the surface, right? Yeah. You're probably one of the best out there that I've seen of raising capital, but also teaching it. You're very good at the way you teach it. And if somebody is interested in learning how to raise capital, something like that, where did you learn? And I'm sorry if this sounds like a pandering question, but where did you learn how to do this? And what would you recommend for somebody that wants to learn the process of how to raise capital?
Well, there's this guy that I met. His name is Russell Westcott.
Yeah, well, I'm trying not to make it a pandering question. I'm sorry, but it is a valid one.
Yeah, and I think that from just from getting started and inspiration and tweaking your process, I think there's lots of different places out there to get it. There's lots of books out there. I've got a bookshelf full of books that I could pull down, and we could look at some of those books together. But yeah, one of those books is some guy named Russell Westcott. And he's got this joint ventures book that I thought was really great. And also, I think, listening now that it's so amazing that you've got this podcast that you're putting together and sharing people that's a great place to get knowledge, right?
Yeah.
But my best suggestion is to find people that are already doing money raises and things like that, and perhaps partner with them on one of the deals and ask them to take you through the process. That's another way of getting through it and getting the educational piece. But joining communities, there's lots of communities all over the place. Join communities that are doing that, already investing in real estate, and connect with those people. We have. You can have people from, actually we have the Durham Real Estate Investor Club, but we have people from Vancouver and Montreal who actually attend the meetings and access the content, because communities are so different now. We're so especially with what's been happening in particular, what's been happening over the last year. We've been seeing I've attended Victoria real estate events and Edmonton real estate events because you can, and everything's come closer together, and that makes it easier for you to find other people who have already done what you want to do, and then talk to them and get inspiration to them. I remember coming to talk to you after an event one time about joint venture partnerships. It was okay, Russell, I'm really interested in this real estate partnership thing. What's the next step? And it's Quentin, just go get a joint venture partner. Just go do it. Get it. Stop. What is this?
Yeah, wasn't my most detailed advice at that time, but it seemed to have worked.
You know what? Whatever works, that's what I say, and it was memorable for me. So that's what's important, right?
Yeah. Nice.
I was you probably had conversations with 100 people at the time, right? So, but for me, it was memorable because it was what, you already know. It was almost so this is what I read into it. You already know this. You've already been hearing about this for the last few months. you know what to do. What you need to do is go out and do it. That's what I heard. Right.
Well, and interesting. Some of the coaching I do for people is not that they need permission, but I have to almost tell them, just get out of your way. Like you're standing in your own way of doing this. You have the tools, you have the resources, you have everything at your fingertips. You got the coach, you got the knowledge, you got the background, you got the education, you got the opportunities. Just get out of your way, right? And just go execute. In the process of you executing and taking the next step, you will learn more than about us having these conversations, right? So just shoot the puck, make it happen. If you miss the net, go dig the puck out of the corner, bring it back out and shoot it again, right? I'm sorry if it sounds really trite or it sounds really oversimplistic, but I think we all get lost in the process of how many steps do I have to take? What is the right next? The right next step is to take a step. What is the next step? Right? That's the only thing you have to really talk about. Okay.
There's so many cool people out there that are sharing stuff now too, like that. I can't get enough of this guy, Arlen Dolan. I don't know if the guy is like, I don't know, he's like a maestro or something. Like I love listening to that guy talk and, just do different, I don't know. I like him a lot. I don't know him. I never met him, but I like him.
If you follow my channel, you'll see many different, Arlen Dolan has his fingerprints all over a lot of the content and materials. And this book behind me would not have been written if it wasn't for Arlen, which then helped out a lot of people, which then has inspired others to do this as well. Okay, before we transition into your investor planner, which I highly encourage everybody should get a copy of. So one more time, let's just put it on. There it is right there. Hold it up one more time there, Quentin. So strongly encourage everybody to pick up the Action Takers Real Estate Investing Planner. Okay, why did you write it, Quentin? What was the inspiration and what was the story behind you putting all this together?
Well, I had done coaching as well, so I'd used my teaching background and I had developed curriculum for coaching clients, which included basically a whole goal setting planning process where we would set big 20-year goals, and then we would focus them down into smaller goals, and then into quarterly plans, and then weekly plans. And I had been working with my coaching clients for quite a few years doing that. Last year and just into this year, I have decided not to do that coaching program anymore, or coaching in general. I still enjoy it. That's why I continue to do Durham REI, the teaching piece. I just don't have I'm working on much bigger opportunities, and I can't really focus my time enough to give it the amount that I think and deserve that coaching needs. So I can't do that anymore. So what I've done is I've released the materials that I gave to my coaching clients into the book. So the first part of the book is actually the first 100 pages is an explanation on how to use the planner. It's an explanation of what to do, how it works, how to set quarterly goals. And then there's a number of tools in it that I use, like, for example, the Wheel of Life activity, knowing where you are from a real estate growth perspective. Are you in the building phase, growth phase, defend phase of your asset acquisition, income diversity, and then, developing out the quarterly plan into the different focuses for the quarter on what are you doing for finding properties? What are you doing for funding properties? What are you doing for financing properties? And, a lot of this stuff has actually come out from all the business training and workshops that I've done over the years. There's been some really great people, like Andrew Barber Starkey from Pro Coach was somebody that I worked with for years. Dan Sullivan, strategic coach, is somebody that, and all of that has kind of helped me to organize things in a strategic way. And this is specific for real estate investors. Yeah. And this is the system that I used in order to help me to grow. And now I'm exceeding 34 million in assets under management in Canada, the US. And that comes from focusing on my quarterly goals. And that's what this book is all about, is the planning Like when you look at the weekly planner, it basically is planning out your week in front of you. And I have it actually to the side of me, and I have the quarterly plan on my desk over there too. So I mean, I'm using this, and I have been using this for a very long time. And
it almost sounds like, guys, I have it pulled up over here. It is on Amazon. Where's the best place to pick up the book?
Yeah, so you can go to Action Taker Planner. It's called actiontakerrealestateplanner.com. Is the website. So you can get like a package, or you could just get, if you just want this by itself, you can just go to Amazon and pick it up.
Yeah, so that's once again actiontakerplanner.com.
actiontakerrealestateplanner.com.
Whew, that's a long type. actiontakerrealestateplanner.com. All right. Yeah. I love it.
There's not even a jingle that I have, so I would try to come up with a jingle or something to make it easier to remember, but
yeah. Nice. Well, I'll tell you what. So a couple final questions I'm going to leave off here with Quentin. So number one is, I think this book, honest to goodness, should be a core fundamental for every real estate investor. It really should. As a matter of fact, I'm probably I want to have you and I have a conversation after this. I maybe want to help you distribute this book and this planner out into more people's hands. I want to get it into the hands of my coaching clients. My copy hasn't yet arrived yet, Quentin. And if you're on the podcast and you're listening to this, my right eye has got a little twitch in it right now, winking.
No problem.
I'm teasing. Well, that's that we're pandering for free books now, aren't we? Here, Russ. So I do have two questions I want to leave off with. So this is a deep story. Immigrated here when you were 3. Had some challenging upbringing. Literally did everything from dealing blackjack to side hustles to, developing your own website, teaching yourself how to code. There was just all these different little side businesses and things you're doing, to teaching, to now a full-time entrepreneur, full-time real estate investor. You're still a coach and a teacher to a group of people now with the Durham group. $34 million in transactions so far. What's next for you? What is the next chapter and the next book that Quentin D'Souza is writing right now?
Well, one thing that I'm focused on is I'm continuing to grow the asset base. So with the current assets under management, I do plan to grow that to a larger extent over the next year or two. So I do want to continue to build that up. The last building I did was 23 units, and I would really like to see myself get into the larger buildings and be able to raise funds and do that. So that's one of the pieces that I'm working on. I also invest in businesses. So I've been doing, I've had a little storage facility that I've invested as an investor in a company that just actually went to the TSX, which has been pretty cool. So I've been getting some stock options on some of that stuff, which has been neat. I'm in the process of investing in another company right now that is a tech startup, which I see a lot of potential. So I do some of that sort of investing. Yeah. I think that there's lots of opportunities out there, and I want to be able to grow myself, to learn, and to be able to take on those opportunities and continue to scale and do what I think I do best is, I'm a transaction engineer, and I can really reposition assets. Like I did it for a long time with the single family homes and the duplexes and triplexes and fourplexes. And I think it took me a little bit to get into the building space because the numbers were bigger. And, I just should have realized a lot earlier that it's just another zero. That's all it is. Like if I just added a zero to it, I would have been fine. And if I just thought about it as another zero, it would have been fine. So, and now, buying a $4.6 million building it just means that I can do a $46 million building because it's another zero. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So
you stole the word right out of my mouth, Quentin. It's like we're a meld of the mind here. So essentially what you're doing is you're doing more of what you were doing, but you're just adding zeros to the zeros on the left side of the decimal point, not on the right side of the decimal point.
Yeah, that's right. Like we're at 134 units, and I'd like to, like, maybe that'll be 234 units by next year, right? Like I'm just going to continue to add, in that case, it's not an extra zero, but it will be getting to the extra zero.
Yeah, yeah.
Working towards it.
Well, you're quite the inspiring guy here, Quentin. And like I said, one of the things that I always wanted to do in this podcast is, I have people contacting me all the time that want to be interviewed on podcasts, and I get it. I'm honored. But what I want to do is I want to bring people who I'm a fan of. I'm a fan of the work that you've done. I'm a fan of who you show up, how powerful you show up, because I firmly believe the results are important, but more important than the results, it's who you become in the process of accomplishing the results is more important than the results in and of itself. Okay. And I guess that's a way of saying that I'm a big fan of yours. And I'm going to offer you one little bit of gratitude before I do ask the last question. Quentin, from that first time, I really remember our like probably an in-depth conversation. I remember it was on one of the bus trips that we had, where there was this guy out in the Durham region who was just slowly just crushing it out there. And so we had a bus trip with the Real Estate Investment Network, and we asked this guy Quentin to kind of organize a little bit about the tour. And you just came back and you had a route and you had properties and you had QR codes way before QR codes were even a thing. You had listing numbers. You just owned your area. And I just was so impressed with you as an investor. And I sat there and I go, no wonder people want to work with Quentin and be his investment partner, because you just got it just nailed and dialed in. And everything you have ever done, everything you've ever taken from your group to your projects, to your coaching, to your books, you have just done it with class, and you have done it with a servant's heart, and you've just nailed it. I just want to offer you that. Okay. Oh,
thank you for saying that.
And no problem. That's from the heart. And that's where I come from always. And then the last question I want to say is, so let's say somebody is sitting here and they're watching this episode or they're listening to this podcast, and they're maybe feeling a little bit either stuck or impatient that things are not moving fast enough. What would be some final words that you would leave for somebody if they're just feeling a little impatient with the process right now?
When you say impatient, can you just clarify a little bit? Like,
yeah, maybe they're just sitting here and they're just feeling that they think they should have more results right now. And they sit here and they listen to us talking $34 million in properties, and they're struggling to find their first property, right? What would you offer to somebody that's maybe just feeling a little impatient that they think they should be further down the road?
Yeah, you know what? I think the challenge is not to compare yourself to other people. Like, it's good to have other people in your peer group that have done more than what you're already doing, right? Because that just helps to propel you forward. But always just focus on the next deal. Don't focus on 10 properties. Don't focus on 20 properties. All you need to focus on is the next deal. And give yourself, like, that's why I only do quarterly plans. I don't do annual plans, because focus on what you're going to do this quarter, this 90 days, that's going to help you to get to, your next goal. And if you can just focus on your next property and not 10 properties or 20 properties or 100 properties, I think that anybody can get there. Like, honestly, I'm not special. Like, I'm just Quentin. Like, I'm just an average person. Anybody can do it. The thing is that I just don't give up, and I keep working hard. And even on my desk, like on my desk is this saying. I look at it every day: never, ever, ever, ever give up, right? And I don't, like when I have building inspectors that tell me this and this has to be done and that has to be done, or I've got to tell financing people that tell me, oh, I can't give you a mortgage. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you're not able to do that. You know what? I don't listen to people like that. I just keep working hard and keep moving forward, because I know that if I work hard enough, it's going to happen anyways. It doesn't matter what anybody tells me, So, like, for that person who's stuck, I'm going to tell you, just focus on getting that next piece done and never give up. I think you're only stuck when you've given up. That's the only time you're really stuck.
Wow. And when you say I'm just Quentin, you can get rid of the just. You're almost like Madonna, where you can just have one name and it's just Quentin. And for me, you're affectionately known as Q. You're Q in our to me. So Quentin.
That's okay. That's the same with Loeffler, and I call Loeffler. By the way, I don't know why. I've always called him Loeffler.
Yeah.
And Andrew. Everybody else has a first name, but Loeffler has a second name. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's like Quentin and Loeffler. It's like you guys are like Madonna, right? Oh man, Quentin, we could do this for hours, and maybe we'll do this again. Guys, if you are listening to this or you are watching this, and maybe the best way to get another guest back to share even more is to leave feedback, leave a review, thumbs up it, heart it, whatever platform you're listening to. The more feedback you leave, the more shares you do, the more signal it means that we need to bring that person back to even go deeper into the conversation. So Quentin, once again, I wanted to just thank you and have yourself a wonderful day. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed that video. 2 simple things to do from here. If you're interested in continuing your journey, interested in continuing to become a successful real estate investor, just below where you're watching this, there will be an opportunity for you to subscribe. And if you're interested in continuing your journey, there is a hand-selected video over here for you. It's been hand-selected for you to keep your journey going forward. Thank you very much.